The government knew last year that tower blocks in Britain were being covered in flammable cladding and that significant fires showed it posed a risk. But their own fire safety advisors told them building regulations were adequate. The Grenfell Tower disaster, in which 79 people are thought to have died, is being blamed, at least in part, on flammable insulation and plastic-filled cladding. The fallout is widespread. This is Billingham on Teesside. Ministers have claimed the cladding was banned and it's now being stripped from buildings across the country in what's been described as a national emergency.
As of midday today, the cladding from 75 high-rise buildings in 26 local authority areas has failed the combustibility test.
The knowledge that flammable material was being put on tower blocks was in a report commissioned by the Department for Communities and Local Government by its fire investigators, BRE Global. In April last year, they wrote, "An increase in the volume of potentially combustible materials are being applied to tower blocks," but concluded, with the exception of one or two unfortunate cases, there is currently no evidence that current building regulation recommendations to limit vertical fire spread up the exterior of high-rise buildings are failing in their purpose. BRE sets the standards for fire safety testing in the UK and has been involved with building regulations since the Second World War. It is now testing the cladding being sent in by worried social housing landlords who thought the building regulations were correct.
We're uncertain to what criteria they are actually applying. Is it the same criteria that the manufacturer and installer are saying we complied with all contemporary building, fire and health and safety standards? Is the building research establishing applying a new criteria, a more robust criteria? And it's also questionable that they're only testing small-scale samples.
Meanwhile, the chaos is spreading and more buildings are being stripped of cladding previously passed as safe.
This is actually the biggest failure in British construction history ever. You've got these panels over all sorts of buildings, commercial buildings, hospital buildings, school buildings. We don't really know.
That the government knew last year that people were living in high-rise buildings covered in material that burns will turn attention to why their advisors had confidence in building regulations which have so tragically been found lacking, and why those same advisors are now testing and failing cladding taken from tower blocks which passed building control checks. Gerard Tubb, Sky News.